بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم أرنا الطلعة الرشيدة والغرة الحميدة واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه وعجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه وارزقنا رحمته ورأفته ودعاءه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Sweeten your gathering with the remembrance of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. As a gift to the soul of Sayyidina wa Mawlana wa Azimina wa Habibi Qulubina Rasulullah, recite the second salawat. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower onto this gathering with His infinite mercy and compassion, and to hasten the reappearance of Sayyidina wa Mawlana Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, recite the third salawat with the loudest of your voices. Cheryl Strayed was a young woman who lived a life of poverty. She grew up in a household full of agony. Her parents, since she was a child, had a lot of conflict. They simply could not get along. While Cheryl was still extremely young, her parents were separated. So her mother had to pick up extra shifts so that she can bring bread to the table. She had to work extra hard to sustain the family. And she says, we used to move from one small apartment to a smaller one. The kitchen supplies, she recalls, in her home while growing up were all purchased from the 99-cent store. So you can imagine she lived an extremely humble life. And her mom seemed to have a lot of trouble in relationships. She could not settle on one man, which played a huge role in Cheryl never being able to trust men. She despised life and what it had to offer to her. Until her mother met this man and he seemed to be decent. Period passes and they get married. This man goes out in the boonies and buys a lot of land, acreage. And she says, since my teenage years, we had to go and build out what we called home years later. Out in the sticks, they would drive every weekend, every holiday, during summers, and work as a family to build the small home and a farm which they moved into years later. By the time Cheryl was 20 years old, they moved into this new home, out in the sticks. And it was time for Cheryl to apply to college. She applied to college. She was the very first person from her family to step foot on the soil of a college campus. But yet, things were looking much better for her and her family. Now they had a home. Her mom did not need to work anymore. 2-3 semesters within her going to college, her mom decides that she's going to join Cheryl. And she said, those were the best days of my life, driving with my mom to college, spending time at the library, doing homework together, laughing together. When Cheryl was about to graduate, months before her graduation, she took her 45-year-old young mother for a random checkup. And she says the doctor was looking at the results of the checkup, and he told her mother that you have what's called stage 4 cancer. She says, as soon as I heard the words stage 4 cancer, I no longer can actually pay attention to what the physician was saying. All I could think of is this a dream? Is this possible? Why is this happening to me? As soon as things start looking different for me and my family, here's my mom, my best friend, the only person that I have in this world, has cancer. And she said, I just detached myself from the conversation and what was happening. And as we drove back home, there was no exchange of words between me and my mother, and we were just crying. The doctor told her, Cheryl, your mom has 3 months. Spend 3 months with your mom. She has 3 months left in this world. And she says that the 3 months promised by the doctor ended in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Such 3 weeks later, I was standing on top of a grave. My mother was 7 feet deep. I had lost everything. So I went to my stepfather and I said to him, you know, I don't have anyone. I hope you're going to look after me and take care of me. She said he looked at me dead in the eye And he said, Cheryl, I've already moved on. I'm sorry. And I want you to pick up your things and leave. She says, this was the darkest, loneliest, hardest, most miserable day of my life. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Who am I going to speak to? My mom is already dead. She's in the grave. Who am I going to complain to? She said, I picked up my stuff, and I went around trying to pick up a job. I couldn't stay focused. She resorted to drugs. Before you know it, she had become a junkie. You know, sometimes we see people standing on a traffic light, begging for a coin. And some of us, we say, how stupid are those people? Why are they so miserable? They have no excuse. How could you stand out on the street, beg for pennies and coins? Go get a job. This is what we think to ourselves, right? And yeah, if we give them, a quarter or a dollar or whatever it is, it's out of sympathy and kindness. But if we were to actually go to those people and have a conversation with them, and we really should at times, we realize that they all have a story. And if we imagine ourselves in their shoes, I guarantee you we realize we wouldn't be able to make better decisions. So what do we say? Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein, Zainul Abidin, As-Sajjad, says once you see individuals like that, say, Alhamdulillah, alladhi in sha' la fa'al. Thank Allah that if He desired for you to be in that position, you would. وَالَّذِي عَافَانِي مِمَّا هُوَ فِيهِ. And that He has protected me from what this man is suffering from and what this woman is suffering from. We thank Allah. So she says, one day I had overdosed on drugs. I had collapsed in a bathroom, public bathroom. I had no work. I had no home. I had no money. All I could think of was do drugs. And at a point in time, she says, I even had to sell my honor in order to get money so I can buy drugs. She says, I sat there and I thought to myself, I need to make a decision right here and right now. Do I continue this path and I'll end up dying from overdose and drugs, selling my honor and my body? Or I can own my life and I can make a change. And she said, I promised myself that I'm going to own my own life. I'm not going to let circumstance dictate to me how I should live. So I got up and I made an extremely wild decision. And the decision was that she's going to, listen to me, she's going to hike the Pacific Coast Trail, 2,800 miles. How many miles? 2,800 miles. And in that hike, I'm going to own my life. In that hike, I'm going to cleanse myself. In that hike, I'm going to put the past behind me. I'm going to start a new chapter of my life. So she got ready, she created a map, she created a plan for herself, and suddenly she met a guy. In the process of getting ready to go on that hike, she met a guy. And yes, you guessed, accurately if you think that she gave up on the plan. Why? Because suddenly she started going to the movies with him and they're laughing and enjoying their time and saying, well, now I'm happy, I don't need to go on the hike anymore. The hike has come to me. The happiness has come to me. And I tell you, brothers, sisters, happiness is not something that is given to you by others. Happiness does not begin with your Romeo. Happiness does not begin with your lover. Happiness does not begin with your friends. Happiness does not begin with your Facebook likes and your Instagram followers. Happiness is something that must be within you, and you're the only one that can create happiness for yourself. And if you are in a miserable state, if somebody tries to give you happiness, you only would make them miserable too. And that's exactly what happened with this guy. She made him miserable to a point that he became crazy. Not only she became more miserable, she also made him miserable. And she decides that, listen, I have to go back to my old plan. I have to take that hike. So she signs the divorce papers with this man that she suddenly met and married. And she took the very first step on the Pacific Coast Trail, right after she signed the divorce papers. And you can imagine, I mean, you're living out of a backpack. Many of us, alhamdulillah, we have large homes, so much furniture, so many things we don't need. And as soon as we feel, we're a little bored, we go and we buy some more stuff. This person says, I'm going to live out of a backpack. So you can imagine living out of a backpack and traveling on foot. Where do you sleep? You get attacked by animals. She describes how she ran out of water. She ran out of food. She got lost. She got attacked by animals. She describes a time where she was trying to fix her shoes and her shoes fell into the valley and she had to walk barefoot. Her feet were bleeding, full of blisters. And she says, every time I felt that misery and it was getting difficult, I said, I need to give up. Let me just give up. What is this? What am I doing? And she would remember the promise she made to herself. You can give up. You made a promise to yourself. She would get up and she would keep walking. She says, until I felt that this is it. Things can't get worse than what they already are. This is months within the hike. All sorts of weird things and devastating things have happened to me. I got a phone call from her stepfather saying that they had a family horse. They love this horse. This family horse isn't doing so well, so Cheryl, maybe you want to come and check up on this horse. She says that was the only thing that would actually get me to go and visit that farm, the barn, their home. She says, I went, and this beautiful horse that had a beautiful coat and was so shiny and beautiful and energetic was shivering, full of scars, bruises, swollen, about to die. She says, I put a halter on its head. I couldn't even walk. So I called a vet. I said, please come out. You need to help me. So, well, it's Christmas time. I won't be there until another month. But describe what the horse looks like, what it's, what's happening to it. And when she describes it, the vet says, go to your neighbor, get a rifle, and put it down. This horse should not be suffering like that. Long story short, she grabs the rifle and she's put it between the ears of the horse and she's about to take the bullet and put it in the horse's skull. And she does. She takes one shot and the vet is saying, take another one, put it down. And she shoots again, and this massive horse collapses. And she's saying, then I had a complete meltdown. This was it for me. The gun was loaded. I was miserable. I felt that there was no one more miserable than I am. Why shouldn't I put the third one in my skull? I just think about this for a moment. How much can a person take from pain and agony, right? So she says, I sat there thinking to myself, should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And she remembered the promise she made to herself. She remembered that promise that you're never going to you're never going to give up. You're going to own your own life. Right? So she gets up. She gets herself back on the Pacific Coast Trail. And she finishes the journey, and it's a beautiful book. It's called The Wild by Cheryl Strayed, one of America's bestsellers, #1 on Oprah Winfrey's book list. You should all read it. And I don't want to give out the whole story. So why did I use this story to begin my lecture with tonight? You might be wondering. It's a pretty long one too. The reason being is when I read her story, I felt if the Shi'i Muslim community in the West were to have a story, it would be the story of this young woman. Story of pain, story of agony. You know, people sometimes had to take mortgages on their homes so that they can donate to a masjid being built. People had to cut down from their expenses so that they can create houses of worship for the community. A lot of the immigrants had to suffer not having a lot to spend on their kids, on their children, breaking even every month, working extra jobs, not taking vacations, so that their kids can go to school and have a comfortable life. And it was difficult for many. And it's still difficult for some. But I believe there is a group of individuals since the beginning of Islam until today, that have erased the word quit out of their dictionaries. They're unwavering. Their unshakable determination to create a good future and a better future for the religion of Islam. Since the beginning of Islam, individuals, Sahaba that surrounded Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that put their life at stake so that me and you can sit here tonight and discuss Al-Imam Al-Hussein and Abal Fadhl Al-Abbas, Imam Zain Al-Abidin, Amir al-Mu'mineen, who slept in the bed of Rasulullah, put his life in jeopardy for the sake of Islam. People who departed from their wealth completely to aid the cause of Ahlul Bayt. And people throw rocks at you. Do you know what I mean by that? Do you know what I mean when I say people throw rocks at you? Big rocks, small rocks. Sometimes it's people close to you, very close. In the name of Imam Hussein, in the name of Ahlul Bayt, they'll throw rocks at you. They'll discourage you. They'll accuse you. What do? All those rocks turn into a mountain, and when you become a mountain, that mountain is unshakable. Nobody can shake a mountain. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Al-mu'min kal-jabal al-rasikh. A mu'min, he's like a mountain. لا تحركه العواصف. of a tornado, of a storm, of a snowstorm, rainstorm, whatever kind of storm it is, it does not shake a believer. It does not shake a mountain. Now, when we gather in a night like this to remember Al-Imam Al-Hussein and Abal Fadhl Al-Abbas, what were they? They were mountains. Imagine for a moment. Now, I said the story of Cheryl Strayed and you were all touched by it, right? Now imagine, compare her to Zainab, and she becomes nothing. Her story is meaningless. Sayyida Zainab, who lost her brothers, her children, her nephews, and they were the greatest individuals that ever walked the face of the earth, and then she's taken as a captive in chains. And the head of her brother is paraded from one city to another. And they've done all this. When she gets to Sham, they stop her caravan for 3 days at the gates of Sham. Let them stay here so that they're humiliated. After the 3rd day, when she's got to be broken, she's got to be completely shattered, because there is no human being that can go through so much torture, agony, and pain and not break. And then she gets into the palace of Yazid and Ibn Ziyad and the enemies of Allah. And the first thing is that they ask her is, كَيْفَ وَجَدْتِ صُنْعَ اللَّهِ بِكِ وَبِأَخِيكِ? Do you see what Allah has done to you and your brother and your family? Some people, I don't know where they get this from, that Sayyidah Zainab started crying and she had a meltdown and she started begging. You don't know Zainab. And you don't know her father Amir al-Mu'mineen. And you don't know her brother Hussein. And you don't know the wasiyya of Imam al-Hussein to Sayyidah Zainab. Ya Zainab, do not cry. La tashuqqi thawba. Do not even weep. Remain strong, remain steadfast. And she was a lioness. Look at the line that she gives him. She says, Wallah ma ra'aytu illa. Cheryl Strayed says, I want to put a bullet in my head. Sayyidah Zainab says, ma ra'aytu illa jamila. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expose you and expose your plan. And the name of my brother Hussein will only rise and rise. And look at it today. Where's Yazid? Where's Hussein? Where's Ibn Ziyad? Where's Zainab? The Mufti of Syria says, I was strolling around Syria, going from one commitment to another. I reached Sham. I reached Sayyidah Zainab. I saw millions of people here. What's going on? Millions of people. What are they doing here? In Syria. There's nothing special here. They told him, this is the Arba'een of Imam al-Hussein. They are here to pay tribute to Sayyidah Zainab, the representative of Imam al-Hussein. And he says, I was in the car. I told the driver, where is Muawiyah now? This is the capital of Muawiyah. Where is his son Yazid? The money given to that person in the chambers of Yazid, he stood up and he said, Al-Khalifa hadha, pointing to Yazid, Al-Khalifatu hadha, wa man aba fahada. And he took out the sword. You don't want to pay allegiance to Yazid? This is the sword. Where is Yazid today? Where's Muawiyah? And look at Zainab. Not Zainab, the 3-year-old orphan of Imam al-Hussein. And those who attribute themselves to Imam al-Hussein must also be unwavering, strong in character. The way, when on the 21st of Ramadan, when they put Sayyidina wa Mawlana wa Muqtadana, Asadullah wa Asadu Rasulih, Amir al-Mu'mineen in his grave, there was a man, alayhi sima'ul anbiya. This is in the book of Kafi. He came and he gave a sermon, a eulogy for Amir al-Mu'mineen, a long eulogy. And part of that eulogy, he says, وَكَانَ أَبَا الْحَسَنْ لَا يَأْخُذُهُ فِي اللَّهِ لَوْمَةُ لَائِمٍ. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, the reason why I have no friends is because of adala and justice. Even his own brother, he comes to him, he says, give me more. And he says, I saw my brother, I saw the poverty on his face. And you know the story. He puts the sword in the fire and he says, Aqil, khudh. So Aqil brings, he couldn't see. Aqil couldn't see. He's trying to grab what he thought could be silver and gold. And he touches the iron of Dhul Faqar and he says, ah! Amir al-Mu'mineen, روحي له الفداء, says, يا عقيل أتئلن من نار هيأها المخلوق للعبه وتبعثني إلى نار هيأها جبار السماوات والأرض لغضبه. You whine from this fire that I created to warm myself, and you're trying to send me to that fire that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for His wrath and punishment? Amir al-Mu'mineen's adala was sharper than his Dhul Faqar. His justice, his equality was sharper than his Dhul Faqar. لا تأخذه في الله لومة لائم. He never thought, what about the people? What will they think of me? What will they say? What about my reputation? What about my popularity? And by the way, Amir al-Mu'mineen wasn't like this only when he was a Khalifa. Rasulullah sent Imam Ali on a mission. You need to know this because this is Islamic history. That is why he is the Faruq, not the other one. He is the Faruq, the distinguisher of Haqq and Batil. When did he receive this title? Rasulullah sent him to Yemen. He collected the khums of Yemen. And people of Yemen, itini bil kisa'il yamani. What is kisa'il yamani? They had very expensive cloth made in Yemen. So he took the khums of Yemen, gold, silver, cloth, and Rasulullah said, meet me in Hajj. You know the story, right? So Amir al-Mu'mineen is heading before his companions. He wants to meet Rasulullah. So he says to his companions, you bring those goods to Rasulullah. And amongst them was Burda al-Yamaniya. Now, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he arrived earlier. And then his companions arrived, let's say a day or two after him. And he saw, as we say, Araqis bahbah. They're wearing the burdas. He gave it to him. He gave it to them to bring it. They're wearing them. So Amir al-Mu'mineen said, what are you doing? He said, Ya Ali, we didn't do anything. We're just wearing it. Now we're going to give it to Rasulullah. Stop complaining. Why are you so strict? As some people say, Islam is a religion of rahmah. Where is the rahmah? Habibi, this is saraqah. This is theft. So they went straight to Rasulullah. Ya Rasulullah, Ali, he's so strict. Why is he so strict? Rasulullah took the minbar. What did he say? What did Rasulullah say? Rasulullah says, لا تشتكوا إلي عليا. Do not complain about Ali. You don't know what it means to complain about Ali. إنه يحب الله. He loves Allah. Okay, many people love Allah. But the difference is, وَرَسُولُهُ. He loves Rasulullah. But there's a huge difference. وَيُحِبُّهُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. Allah loves him. Rasulullah loves him. Allah loves those who love him. Be careful with Ali. Don't complain about him. This was his adala. He was never afraid to do the right thing. You know, I don't want to read the masa'ib of the 10th of Muharram, but I want to tell you of this glimpse of the day of Ashura. They say the 20,000 enemies of Imam al-Hussein, obviously, that was during the day. And Shimr la'anahullah said, draw your swords. 20,000. They drew their swords. He said, make a reflection from the sun onto your swords towards the camp of Hussein. Allahu Akbar. Why? So that they can mentally weaken him. How can I stand in front of 20,000? Swords are drawn. Should I give up? Should I walk away? They killed my family. What is going to happen to my sister, my wife, my children? Maybe Imam al-Hussein will come back and say, okay, I'll give bay'ah. Allahu Akbar. But Imam al-Hussein, no. He was the son of Ali. He came out after they did this and he said to them, لو اجتمعت العرب لقتالي لما وليت منهم فرارا. If all the Arabs, not those 20,000, come and they draw their swords in my face, I will not give them my back. ولا أفر منكم فرار العبيد. And the followers of Imam al-Hussein. The reason why we are here, brothers and sisters, to understand that if you're a follower of Imam al-Hussein, those are the qualities that you ought to have. To be strong, unwavering, صابر, محتسب, لا تأخذه في الله لومة لائم. You do not question yourself, you do not question your mission, you do not question your vision, you do not question your service to the Ahl al-Bayt, but you remain strong and steadfast, just like your masters, the Ahl al-Bayt. And amongst them, and with this I conclude, and inshallah we'll continue tomorrow, was the man that we are remembering tonight. And we remember him yesterday, today, and tomorrow inshallah. Abal Fadhl Al-Abbas, Qamaru Bani Hashim, also Babu Al-Hawaj. Allahu Akbar. Listen to this. This is something I want you to never forget. The very first marriage in the history of Islam to create a khadim of Imam al-Hussein was the marriage of Sayyid al-Wasiyyin, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen went to create a marriage for himself, so he creates a child, so that that child becomes the khadim of Imam al-Hussein. Do you know what that means? That is a grand statement. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen's marriage with Fatima al-Kilabiyya, al-Baneen, was for the sole purpose of creating sons so that they become the sacrifice for Hussein, the servants of Hussein, the khadams of Imam al-Hussein. Why? How so? 20 years after Sayyida Fatima, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha, had become a martyr, Aqil was old, and he would have a carpet in the Masjid of Rasulullah, and he was known as Alim al-Ansab. You know, Amir al-Mu'mineen goes to Aqil, just like everyone else. By the way, this was Aqil's job. He would sit, people will come and tell him, Ya Aqil, who should I marry my son to? This boy has asked for my daughter. Should I give? Should I not give it? He would ask them, what is it that you want in this marriage? And they would tell him. So he says, marry this person. Don't marry this person. Do this. كان عالما بأنساب العرب. Amir al-Mu'mineen comes to him. He says, Ya Aqil, اختر لي من النساء. I want you to find me a wife. Now, what are the qualities of this wife? ورثت الفحولة من العرب. She inherits bravery. So Aqil says, oh, my respected brother, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, usually men, when they come, they look for a wife. They want her to be obedient, good looking, this, that, good cook, other things. But this is something they look in qualities of a man. A man for him to be brave, not a woman. Why do you need a brave woman? Are you going to send her to the battlefield? What does he say? لتلد لي غلاما أدخره للشدائد. So that she gives me a son, and this son I will save him for the day of agony, the day of difficulty. The difficulty that will befall onto Ahl al-Bayt. So this was the very first marriage. Amir al-Mu'mineen is planning his own marriage so that a man comes from his lineage and stands in defense of Imam al-Hussein. And you all know that he pointed him towards Fatima al-Kilabiyya or al-Kulabiyya, and she was from a lineage of brave men, extremely brave men. When they're example of bravery, right? And when this young boy was born, his mother Fatima, you all know the story. First of all, when she goes in the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, she says to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, do not call me Fatima. This is what I ask of you. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, why? She says, because I don't want you calling me Fatima to remind Hassan, Hussein, Zainab and your children of their mother Fatima. This was a position. Fatima is Fatima. I am the servant of Fatima. So give me a nickname. And Amir al-Mu'mineen gave her the nickname of al-Baneen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed al-Baneen with 4 boys. The first one was Qamaru Bani Hashim. And she saw a dream that the moon had fallen in her lap. You know the story. And they told her that this is the birth of Abal Fadhl Al-Abbas. When he was born, the story says Abal Fadhl Al-Abbas did not open his eyes. And his brother took him, Al-Imam Al-Hussein. When his brother took him, he opened his eyes. And the last place that he closed his eyes in were also on the lap of Imam al-Hussein. And then he took him to his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen was very happy. He kissed him. Then he told Fatima, al-Baneen, he said, open the qimat. She opened the qimat, the wrap, and Amir al-Mu'mineen began to kiss the hands of Abal Fadhl and cry. So al-Baneen says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, is there something wrong with my son's hands? Why are you crying? And al-Baneen told Abal Fadhl, you never call Hassan and Hussein brother. You call them Sayyidi wa Mawlai. They are your brothers, but they are also your masters. And they are the grandsons of Rasulullah, the sons of Rasulullah. So Abal Fadhl Al-Abbas grew up knowing that Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein are his masters, are his imams. And he did not question them. In the battle of Siffin, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen took Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and Imam Hassan was one of the commanders in the battle of Siffin. Many of us don't know about the bravery of Imam al-Hassan. al-Baneen came to Amir al-Mu'mineen. She said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, Abal Fadhl is very sad. He says, my father is not taking me with the rest of my brothers. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, he's only 12 years old. How am I going to take him? He comes to him, he says, Ya Abata, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, take me, I'm ready. Amir al-Mu'mineen took him. In the battle of Siffin, there was a man who was hired and he had 5 boys. And he was given a prize money that he brings the head of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Hassan and Hussein. And his sons were known. They don't take sides in battle. They take the side of money. You pay me, I'll go and I do this job for you. Like a hitman. And they were ready. He came out and he started calling onto the camp of Amir al-Mu'mineen.
Ya Ali, send me your best men. And he sent his first son. Amir al-Mu'mineen, look at the confidence that he has in his son. 12 years old. He says, Abbas, are you ready? Everyone was shocked. You're sending Abbas. It's his first battle to a person that you know is one of the best warriors. So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Ya Abbas, make sure that you cover your face. They don't see you. And the traditions say he had become the same height as his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, at the age 12. So he went to the battlefield. He killed the first. They sent the second son. He killed the second, third, fourth, fifth. The father himself came. He said, Ya Ali, you killed my sons. And Abbas does not speak. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to him, Abbas, you remove the cover when I tell you. Because they thought, who else can do this? It has to be Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib comes from the behind. This is Ali, who is this man? Amir al-Mu'mineen wanted to make sure they know him. They don't forget the name of Abbas. So he says, Ya Abbas, move the cover from your face. When they saw him, right there they said, Innahu qamaru bani Hashim. From the illuminated face and the beauty of Abbas. So this was the first time he put his marks on the battlefield at the age 12. And until the 10th of Muharram, Sayyidi wa Mawlai, nothing changes to Imam al-Hussein. Shimr comes. And he calls out, where are my nephews? Where are my nephews? So Abal Fadhl ignores him. Al-Imam al-Hussein says, who is this man? كأنه الشمر. Seems that it is the voice of Shimr. Ya Abbas, he's calling you. Abbas says, Ya Abdullah, I have nothing to do with him. He says, no, go. Go and see what he says. Now it's a command from the Imam. He has to go. So he says, all you need to do, Abbas, is walk away. And I have a letter of amnesty for you and your brothers. Take this letter of amnesty and leave Hussein. He says, قَدْ ثَكَلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ أَمَانٌ لِي وَلَا أَمَانٌ لِبْنِ فَاطِمَةَ. You give me amnesty and the son of Fatima has no amnesty? And then he goes and he tells his brothers, you have to go before me. I am worried. You go before me. That is why Al-Imam Zainul Abidin says, Inna li'ammi al-Abbas darajatan fil jannah. Listen to this, this is Imam Ma'soom speaking. Inna li'ammi al-Abbas darajatan fil jannah yaghbituhu jami'u shuhada. All the martyrs in Jannah will be jealous of the position given by Allah to Abal Fadhl. Why? Because in the ziyarah you read, what did Abal Fadhl say? What did he have? Basira. He had the vision. He knew where his allegiance was, and there was nothing that's going to come between him, his allegiance, and his Imam. And today, brothers and sisters, we began our lecture with what? Dua al-Faraj. We also have the same responsibility towards our Imam, the 12th Imam, Ajjalallahu ta'ala faraj. We have to give him the same allegiance. And in that process, whatever difficulty we see, we must remain steadfast and strong. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to give us the honor and the privilege to be amongst the best of the followers of the Ahlul Bayt. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst the best of the defenders of the cause of Ahlul Bayt. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the visitation of Al-Imam Al-Hussein, his brother Abul Fadhl Abbas, his son Al-Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein Zainul Abidin, qariban ajila. Their shafa'ah insha'Allah in our graves and in the day of judgment. To grant us the dua of the Imam of our time. Oh Allah, give us the privilege to seek the bounties and the pleasure of the Imam of our time. Oh Allah, we gift the thawab of this majlis to the soul of all the lovers of Hussein, all the lovers of Abbas, all the lovers of the Ahl al-Bayt, wherever they may be. Oh Allah, every man and woman in this majlis with a haja, give them their hajat. بحق الحسين وبحق باب الحوائج أبل فضل العباس وبحق زين العابدين مريض كربلاء. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور. اللهم شافي وعافي كل مريض. اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك. اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأجرنا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والعلماء والشهداء وخدمة الحسين نهدي جميعا ثواب سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.